2, 3, 4.
Hello and welcome to Chit Chat with Jed & Co, the show where everyone has their say. Can we ask you please subscribe free to our YouTube channel, comment and give us a like. Now today's show comes from the fantastic Studio 23 and is sponsored by St Mirren legends Tony Fitzpatrick's Legacy Comps. Legacy Comps is a fantastic competition website where you can win up to £1,000 7 days a week. You can win a share of £10,000, fantastic vouchers and so much more. One of Tony's main objectives is to help youth sports clubs, charities and general good causes. Can we ask you please go to legacycomps.com. Now today's guest was born in Greenock on the 23rd of February 1955. He came from a family of 10 who lived in a one-bedroom flat sharing an outside toilet. He left school and joined Scott Lithgow Training Centre as an apprentice plumber. He played for Port Glasgow Rovers and was scouted by Aberdeen in 1972. He then signed full-time for Aberdeen as a 17-year-old and he was farmed out to the Highland League team Peterhead. He got into the first team in season 73-74 and played under the great Ali McLeod and Billy McNeill. And then a certain Sir Alex Ferguson took over and his career took off. He became a regular first team player. He won the league in 1978 and 1980 and was followed by many more trophies, which included the European Cup Winners' Cup and the European Super Club, defeating the mighty Real Madrid and Hamburg respectively. Playing Liverpool in 1980, he received a serious injury which kept him out for 15 months. He took part in all the finals right up until Sir Alex left in 1986. He joined his hometown team of Morton as a player coach with Alan McGraw, where he served for 10 years. He's written a book about his illustrious career. Welcome to the show, John McMaster.
I thought I wasn't coming in there.
There you are, John.
What an entrance that is.
Well, it's important.
Mr. Fitzpatrick is a very good friend of mine. That's nice of him to do what he's doing to you and Curtis.
Yeah,
that's great.
Legacy Comps is fantastic, and Tony, just when he left them, he's ambassador now,
yeah.
And he wanted to give back to youth sports clubs, charities, and I've ended up the presenter.
Well, there you go then.
There you go.
So,
I'll go. So, John, you were born in Greenock on the 23rd of February 1955, and I said there you come from a family of 10 and you shared an outside toilet. What's it like to be part of such a big family, John?
Well, 6 sisters, and I was the second youngest, and 2 sons, my mum and dad. My dad was a riveter in the shipyards, and it was like straight across the street. If you go down to Greenock, you'll see it. It's right next to the dry dock. But that no longer exists, Chalmers Street. And it was just a big U-shape with a big actual play pool, with swings and a park in there, and everybody met there. And it was my sister. I asked him about my upbringing because I was only 5 at the time when I left there. And she says, we had a great upbringing. No, 3 outside toilets and 3 balconies with 3 families of probably 8, 10, whatever. But we got on with it. But there was a tragedy as well in the family because my father had drowned not far from the dry dock where we were living on Chalmers Street, and that was a bit of a disaster for me because I never really had him to actually fall back on throughout. But my uncle Andrew, who was a good friend of his, and he kept us okay, looked after the younger ones of us because it was the family. The oldest was about 18 and the youngest was about 4.
My goodness.
So it was a big struggle for my mum.
Absolutely.
But we eventually got out and we got a big mansion up in Gibbs Hill. And it was a 3-4 bedroom, big long hallway. And my mum wouldn't have let me and my brother Andrew play football in a hall. So we decided to get everybody's socks and turn them into a ball. And it was tights as well because there was a lot of tights there at the time with the lassies. So me and Andrew would be blittering a ball in the hall, and it was about 15 metres long, and there was a bunker in it, there was a toilet in it, there was a kitchen room, a living room with stone floors. It was the best thing ever. And that just took off. The family was great. Gibbs Hill was a fantastic place to live. But it was a lot of gangland, a lot of gang culture. And at that time, around about 60s, 70s, and you had the Protestants and the Catholic stuff and that as well. Mm-hmm. So, the shipyards was a great choice for a lot of people because, and the mills was a great choice for the girls because you come out of school and there was a job guaranteed. And where we were up in Gibbs Hill, we could look onto the Clyde and you can see about 5 or 6 ships getting built at the same time. It was unbelievable, Jed. It's a great place to live at the time.
But I believe so. And was that a natural progression for you, John? Going to the likes of Scott Lithgow.
Yeah.
And when I was doing my research, I believe you went on to be an apprentice plumber.
I was an apprentice plumber. We get a week in there at everything. You know, a week to a fortnight. And they kind of gauge what sort of things you're good at. I wanted to be a painter and decorator. And the guy says, no, you're going to be a plumber because you showed up good at that skills. So it came the end of the year. The Scott Lithgow was then supplying 500 apprentices a year to all them shipyards in the Greenock, Port Glasgow and Greenock. And quite a proud, I would say, town as well, Inverclyde. But because of the shipyards as well, everybody just relied on it all the time. And then it just kind of faded. Maggie Thatcher come on board and whatever. But before that, I was in Ladyburn School, and everybody that was in there, we just all played football. On the streets, in the school, on the streets, in the school, on the cinders, which is wee stones. You know, you couldn't imagine that, you know, and everybody just loved the football. And we get a great opportunity all the time because we went out at 9 o'clock in the morning, come back at 10.
And that's what it was like back in the day.
Yeah.
John, even for myself, I know I wasn't good enough to play at your level, but playing football, they used to go in, it was 22 a side, and it was just the 10-21ers, and I guess that's where your skills were honed, were they?
Well, I think it was everything. We always played football. We played other things, don't get us wrong, or we get bow and arrows, or we'd end up playing, what do you call it, the kick a can and all that. Yeah. But you'd always go back to the football. And in school, there was games of football all the way, and it was Ladyburn, the school we were in, which is now a big building opposite the Arnold Clark. That was where I got noticed by the art teacher, David Allen. We call him Bunny. And this is when you need someone to put an arm around you. He done that to me when I was young, and he noticed me. And he says to a fellow Gibbs Hill man, he says, I seen a young boy and he's brilliant. He says, and he'll play for Scotland. I says, I'm 7 at the time, and this guy's, he says, he'll play for Scotland. And Joe turned around and says, is it John McMaster? He says, aye, it's him. So right through primary, he looked after me with 5-a-sides, and the primary, that's when I started taking interest in the 11-a-sides. And we weren't great. 5-0 at half time was good scores, you know. Right through secondary school, I was captain of the teams, and he actually always promoted me. I wasn't great at school, but I liked my metalwork and my woodwork and my PE. You know, I was good at that.
You'd somebody that showed faith in you. And then I believe you went on to play for Port Glasgow Rovers before you were scouted by Aberdeen in 1972. How did that come about? Well,
it was usual. It was just like a shipyard going in and getting a job there. But you get a club. You went for school football, primary, secondary, boys brigade, whatever, scouts. Then it was under 16s, under 18s, under 20s in the Port Rovers. And that was about 12 teams in the Paisley District League. And all the people it actually tells you has probably played in the Paisley District League, and there was a bit of a barrier. But what we liked about it is there was training twice a week. And you didn't notice that because you were working. So you were used to that. So you're getting a body kick, it's a decent ball. And I got a game in the wide left, outside left, but I couldn't run, but I could pass a ball and I could take a touch in that, you know. And but he had favourites of me, manager Alec Mackenzie. But I ended up playing for the 21s because I couldn't get a game with the 16s, because he'd favoured people before me. And the manager of the 21s, Tommy Mooney, turns around and says, can we take John up to Paisley Ways? And we took him up, goes into the dressing room. I'm playing the 21s now, 16. And all the boys like, who's this? You know, one like that. What's happening here? He says, just a wee boy. He says, this wee boy can play. That's what the manager says. And I says, that made me even more stronger. Coming back for that, a 16s manager didn't pick me, but a 21, he took us back. And after the game, all the guys were all over me like a rash, so. But I was always good in school with the football. That was my love. Football was my love, and I just honed my skills.
Indeed.
I wish I'd have honed my right foot more. But anyway.
You did not too bad, John. Not too bad. As the viewers will see, stay tuned. This story is incredible. Now, you said that you were scouted by Aberdeen when you were playing for Port Glasgow Rovers. How did you find out that you were being scouted?
Well, I didn't know until he actually came up to my door and says, we want you up to Aberdeen with Bobby Calder, the chief scout at the time. Now, Bobby was someone out of Fools and Horses with a hat, wee dapper guy. Brilliant, so he is. But he would come up and talk to my parent, my mum, and a couple of my sisters would be listening in. But I'd found out for Port Rovers, he was interested in me and Bobby Street. Aberdeen always took 2 people up for the same team because you make go homesick. It made sense at the time, but me and Robert were delighted with it. And Robert was playing in the 18s and I was in the 16s at the time. And he watched us for about a year and a half. And he was a smashing man. He had a club foot, but it didn't bother him because he liked watching football and he liked telling me. Kept me right, so he did. He was brilliant for me. And we went up there for a week's trial. And we're coming for the 16s and the 18s. I'm in the dressing room, the home dressing room at Aberdeen, on the Saturday after a first week's trial. It was 2 weeks trial. First week's trial, me and Robert showing up well. And I was all right. I was on the bench for the reserve game. Robert played in it. And over that, I got on eventually, maybe half an hour or whatever. And eventually, they looked at us over the next week and sent us back down the road and then knocked on my mum's door. He was looking for us up in Gibbs Hill.
That was the start of your incredible journey. Now, did any of the big 2 down the west show an interest in you?
No, not I know of. Never. Not I know of at all.
Especially
Leicester City. We were down at Leicester with another 2 of my mates. Went down there for a week. But Bobby Calder says, just go down as a holiday. He says, I've already been signed. But it was funny because he was up and he was looking Gibbs Hill all over the place. He was up to my house with a dress. My mum's opened the door. He says, John's out playing football. He'll be in some... He was out in the street playing football. 16. So, brilliant. So he eventually found me and we talked. He says, look, we want to sign you. I says, fine, that'd be great, mister.
And that was you. And I bet your sisters were happy to get their tights back.
Aye, they were probably, aye. Well, Andrew must have done, he done okay. But at that time, I was on about $450 a week as an apprentice plumber in the shipyards.
Aye.
And we stayed. What happened was, first wage, brown envelope with the $450 in it. And he gave it to my mum, unopened. She opened it and gave me 50 pence back. She kept it £4. I says, what's the script for this, Mum? She says, that's your bus fare and your food and all that, right? So I goes out that night and I got a couple of beers with my big mate. Like, carry out. At that time you couldn't get in the pubs. So big Cheddar McDonald, he's my big mate. And I says, I get 50 pence off. I've only droppings or something a week, so I was loaded. But he says, what happened to the rest of it, John? He says, I need that for the bus fares and that. He says, but you walk to work, John. It's stitched straight up, so it does for my mother. And I says, that'll not happen again.
Lesson.
Brilliant.
Lesson learned, John.
Excellent. So she agreed with me the following night.
That was you. So you signed full time for Aberdeen at 17. How did that make you feel, John? Obviously, coming from a big family and going up north, saying that was you full time and you're away from home. How did that make you feel?
I think going up for a fortnight, then it left an impression on me, but it was still kind of happening too quick, because you don't see this and this really happened for boys doing it in Greenock and whatever. So anyway, I was fortunate enough to do it, and at that time they liked me. And I went up the road to Jimmy Bonestro, and he was a manager at the time. And he took us in first, and then Robert came in, and Dougie Rugby signed at the same time as us. He came from Ballingry in Fife, and we became friends for life, the 3 years. And went in to negotiate with him. Never negotiated in my life. You always just used to get a wage, and that was it, and you get a rise at a certain age. And so Jimmy Bonestone says, I believe Bobby's offered you £4.50 a week, a fiver, no, £12 a week. £12 a week, went from £4.50 to £12, and £80 signing on. Wow, rich boy at this time. And aye, that's right, Mr. Bonestone. He says, well, what we'll do is we'll just make it £16. After signed, he says, do you want to continue with your apprenticeship, John? And I says, no, I want to be a footballer. So Jimmy Bonestone was good that way, but Big Dougie accepted it. Big Dougie, he says, I wouldn't mind. I think it was engineering he wanted to do, Big Dougie. So anyway, what had happened was that by the time we got out the door, it went up by £20 and £100 signing on. And I sent my mum a fiver a week. So she was happy and I was happy. I got her Benson and Hedges, her bingo and her ascot powder. She got an ascot powder every time because she was going to have a sore head later on the day. So you need to explain ascot powder to a lot of people.
I used to work in ice cream vans years ago, that's true. And people, ascot powders were...
Jesus, it was just dissolved in water. Then it was bingo and Benson and Hedges, and it was me that had to go for them. So Andra ended up doing that.
Was you.
But she got a fiver out of it.
So you signed for Aberdeen at 17, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this is me. I've got more money. I've made it. But I believe they farmed you out to Highland League team Peterhead. How did you find that?
Well, I didn't even know where Aberdeen was at the time when I went up to Aberdeen the first time. And
they took you further north.
So 28 miles further north, but I was still winching my wife. I was going with my wife at that time, Katie Mills, and I was 17 at the time, and I'm away up there and I'm missing her, but I couldn't get a game. The reason why I went out to Peterhead is because I couldn't get a game in the reserves, and they says, look, you're doing well in the training, John, and we're happy with what you're doing. He says, Monday to Friday. He says, but we can't get you in the reserves. Favouritism again. I had to get over that as well with certain players. And he says, we see you going down home every Friday, and they were a wee bit concerned about that. I says, I'm not enjoying it. I'm working hard and I know I'm better than some of the players that's there. He says, but your choice is, you know better than me what you think about the team selection. So this is for reserve, so it was. So they says, what we're going to do is, he says, we're going to farm you out to Peterhead. And I says, where the hell's Peterhead, boss? And he says, 28 mile further north. And I was like, aye, okay, no problem, it's a game. So we trained all week with the team, and then with the first team reserves, and then it was up to the game on Saturday. Got a couple of the boys picked us up. First game, I score. And Robbie Warrender's the chairman. And I think he owns a half a Buchan, which is Peterhead, Fraserburgh, all that sort of stuff. Ellen, it's a nice, sweet, big place. And he loved what I was doing, and he liked me with what I was doing. I think it was a left foot, must have done it, because there's a lot of people just swoon with it. That's what they say. And Big McLeish used to always say, you can open a tin of beans with that, Johnny, So aye, I'm like that. I can't understand a word this guy's saying. He says, loon and stuff like that, and so Doric, and I was like that. And then he produced a fiver. And then I knew his language all of a sudden. And he gave us a fiver. Now, at that time, a fiver was gold dust because my digs was £5 a week. So I've got £5 a week better half. So I stayed there the whole season.
Brilliant.
And I ended up scoring 20 goals.
Wow.
So, which I thought it was about 12 or 14, but I made a lot of assists, and I think we finished in the top 6.
Fantastic. And as you say, it was good
Great
grounding.
times.
And then you get back to Aberdeen and you get into the first team, I believe, in 19th season 73-74, and you played under the great Ali McLeod and Billy McNeill. What would they like to play under, John?
Well, you pinch yourself when you see that, because Ali had done magnificent at Ayr United, and I used to always follow the football results in all the Scottish leagues, and the juniors, the 2 juniors, the Greenock juniors and the Port Glasgow juniors, which I work with now at the moment. So anyway, when I seen Ali, you're kind of in awe of these guys, but it comes up, and Ali was so open-minded about things, and they played me for the whole season. and he really liked us. But then he started buying people and all that, and Jim Shearer and all that, and then they would come in and they needed somebody stronger in midfield, and so he had other positions to get sorted, and I ended up drifted out. I never kicked a ball the following season after that. And Ali was there for about 18 months, and he lifted the whole city, and he also lifted the League Cup, and that was him. And then Scotland got an interest in him, and we were supposed to win the World Cup, I think, Scotland.
I remember the song as a wee boy.
We're not on top bus round Hampden. He was brilliant.
He was such a character, wasn't he?
He gave you that much enthusiasm, Ali.
Do you remember the song, John?
Oh, Jesus.
We're on the march with Ali's army. Brilliant.
Oh, fantastic. Honestly, the whole of Scotland was lifted. He believed that we were going to win the World Cup.
Belief.
So the guy was excellent at that time. But then after that, it was, I think it was Billy McNeill and John Clark. Yeah, I mean, it's all mad Rangers and Celtic fans down there. I'm a Morton man. Before I go to Aberdeen, right? I'm a mad Morton man. And we're not bothered about Celtic and Rangers. But when Billy McNeill come up, you see these people, and John Clark, European Cup winner, serial champions of Scotland, getting into Europe every year and getting coached by them. So, but the best thing about that was Billy McNeill and the chairman. I asked the chairman for a job in the summer because we had a 10-week holiday at that time because it finished early. The season all the time, and I says, look, I'm a wee bit spare. I need some money because just get married and get a flat. And he gave us £14 a week extra for doing the maintenance with Andy Bowie, the rest of the staff. So I got to know all them as well. But when they got big Billy McNeill up, when they lost Alan McLeod, it was Mr. Anderson. He was the chief executive at the club, and he was the one that was seeing all the vision. And he was on the SFA, and he knew what was happening down in Glasgow. And Clyde was where Billy was at that time. He was with Clyde, Billy McNeill. And as soon as they got Ali into Scotland, you get Billy come up. Aye. And it was at the beach end. And I was doing extra training, but I was working in there at the same time. And I was the first one to get hot, and he shook my hands. This is John McMaster, one of the young boys that's coming through. The chairman says, that Mr. Donald? And he says, I know, John. Because John Clark says, keep an eye, John McMaster's a good player. Before this, he must have told Billy, he says, John McMaster's a good player. He's seen us in the reserves. He says, he'll do his, So Billy McNeill came up to me and says, I want you to play left midfield. He says, but we've got to get rid of, we've got to sell Arthur Graham. And Arthur Graham was called Bumper, right? To Cumbernauld, because he wore bumpers all the time. It's trainers at the summer. So he went to Leeds for 140 grand, and I get the outside left position, which I didn't want because the whole South stand was saying, get up your wing, McMaster. It doesn't matter who's on 11 and 7, it's always got up your wing. And they want to take on 2 or 3 or 4 men. But Big Billy, it's true to his word, they got hold of he got a replacement for him. Ian, what's his name? It'll come to me. He ended up playing for St Mirren. So
Ian Scanlon?
Ian Scanlon, aye. Scanlon came for Notts County. He went left back. He went left mid. He left winger, and I was in centre mid.
That was you.
And that was me. So, and then I became a regular that whole season with Big Billy.
So so good times under Ali and Billy, and obviously John Clark as well. And then John, a certain Sir Alex Ferguson, or Alex Ferguson, he was known back in the day, and he comes and your career took off. That's the only way you can describe it.
Aye, he's a bit of a rascal, isn't he? What a man.
He's Tony Fitzpatrick, who I know very well. He was his youngest ever captain, and he speaks very, very highly of him. So you won the league in 1979-80, which must have been a huge high, followed by a serious injury when you were playing Liverpool, and I believe that kept you out for 15 months. So getting into a regular first team player, and then being in the higher, winning the league, and then getting that serious injury, that must have been a huge blow, John.
It was hard to take, but football was tough. You know, you don't get through football easy. You know, everything's always a challenge, whether you're young or old or whatever, because you've got to stand up to it and show people that you can handle it. But I met Sir Alex, I call him my boss anyway. So I met him at the beach end. Same scenario as the year before with Big Billy and Mr. Donald. And I was still working on there because once you get a couple of bob in your pocket, that's it. So he knew me as well. He says, I've heard of him, I've seen him. And I think I remember seeing a wee article and he's talked about, I've got a great inside left I want to use. He says, Heel Days. He's called McMaster. You know, he says, so obviously he's done his homework, you know, he's St Mirren and whatever. So he comes up and settles in. And just a young man, I think he was only about 38 or something, 37, 38. But he had the same effect on me as what Billy had. He
believed in you.
Kind of, aye. He understood what sort of player I was and whatever. So he never asked me to do anything that I couldn't do, put it that way. And with the chairman there as well, the chairman was great. It's like a big family up there, so it was. But then, at that time when the boss first came in, he inherited a good side. Big Billy had left him, Stevie Archibald, Gordon Strachan, Ian Scanlon, people like that had come in, you know, and we had a good structure. And he never dabbled with it at all until he just wanted to. He was always good with the youths. Yeah. He always wanted to promote the youths. He seen what like it was there. And they had a good youth policy at the time. Mm-hmm. Lenny Taylor and Bobby Clark was there, you know, so. But we get beaten in the 2 cup finals. We get beaten. We gave Rangers a good run for their money in the treble when they won the treble that year. We were second top, and we get beat off them in the Scottish Cup, and then the following year we get beaten in the League Cup, and it wasn't until the 4th time in a row we won the league, 78, and that took about the last time we'd won the league was 56, right. I think it was, and what an achievement that was. And I was saying, I put that medal round my neck. I had a chain. I put that medal around my neck for about 3 months. What? I mean, you win league medals. Celtic and Rangers are not supposed to win league medals. Incredible. At Peterhead. You know, and the open top bus was phenomenal.
I bet you it was.
Jesus.
I bet you it was. And then you obviously, with Sir Alex, your career took off. You came back and you won many more leagues and trophies in Scotland. Did you think that was just the norm, John? Was that because Aberdeen were winning so much back then? They were the dominant force. No by luck, by sheer hard work and talent, of course. But did it start to feel this is just normal?
No, it wasn't cockiness. It was just confidence in his players. He actually got Pat Stanton and his assistant. He never rushed it. I think it was about 2 or 3 months gone, and Pat came in, and the boss would just have a look at everything and let Pat do the coaching. And he was always there. He was always looking at, because the reserves and the first team all mixed together in this beautiful big stadium across the street for Peterhead, and it's a big a gravel park. It's a Red Ash Park we trained on. I don't know if you know these stories, but across the street for there's a big car park.
I know the park across there. Was that
we trained in that. That was our best training pitch.
Wow.
And we went on the grass when we got the training, the seating and all that. It was a bus, 20 A's, and the goals in it as well. So you were on your own. That's the way it was. Everybody got on with it. Didn't have an academy or nothing. But the boss came in, and when we won the league, he turned around and says to us, he says, we're a 1 trophy team a year. That's what he says to us. And then he says to us after we'd won an trophy, he says, we're a 2 trophy team, 3, 4 trophy team a year. And
that was a demand.
That happened.
Aye.
It just goes to show the squad of boys that he had was brilliant, which he inherited for Big Billy. Used it well. He played the boys. They all become great players as well. 16 is normally in the squad, but the youths were thriving with the Hewitts and the Simpsons and the Blacks and the Guns. And the Big Simmy, Ian Angus. All these boys were couldn't get into the reserves. The reserve team was running riot. So the boss decided to just go with that and just buy a player here and there. And he'd done that, it just tweaked. And it made us stronger.
Absolutely.
And the unit was there, but it was so... He just kept on. Actually, he's not one of the best coaches, but he's got everything in his head. But he's a manager looking at a game. He knows the weaknesses.
Talking about that, something's just come into my head there. I remember as a wee boy watching, he's played, I think it was Rangers at the time, and he's won the cup final.
Yeah.
Right? That it was, I'm going
was
to
86, I think.
I think and he was on television and he slaughtered you.
Aye, he was good.
What was it like?
He was good at slaughtering people.
What was that like? You won the cup final, and did you know that he'd been on television? Did he come into the dress? What was it like? Did he come into the dressing room?
We hadn't seen the footage, but we just seen what had happened. I was saying, man, I just won the European Cup and just missed out in the league, and we've won a Scottish Cup now, and we were dead on our feet. And the boss was really angry. He wanted to put a show on. He wanted to put a show on because it was Rangers. He just all of a sudden had that outburst. And if it wasn't for Alec and Willie, we wouldn't have won this, right? So we goes up in the dressing room. This is still happening. It's still going on outside. Going up in the dressing room, and he's ranting and raving. And Willie and Alec comes in, and we're all going like that, clapping hands to them. He says, "Well done for winning the Scottish Cup for us, Alec." Well done, Willie. And they took it well. Don't get us wrong. And he says, "We Gordon Strang turned around and went like that." He says, "How are we going to get an open top bus?" He says, "Willie and Alec will need to get in a motorcycle in a car." He says, "Let me try with the motorcycles in the car." Willie sent the two of them up Union Street. That was how strong we were as a team. We just slaughtered each other. And then Fergie comes in, slams the door as if it was like he's in a casino, and the door's going like a flap. Use guys. He says, started, oh Jesus. He says, here we go again. So, but I apologised about 2 or 3 days later. I think he knew, and it all went back to that. And the achievement, we all enjoyed it. Fantastic. So it was
absolutely fantastic.
He's a straight. That's the anger in him, and I think
it's
that's
a
just
winner.
all about. Aye,
it's a winner.
Aye, it's that mentality.
It's no surprise he went on to do it. You've never seen that. I've had the pleasure of meeting him once in my life, and obviously I'm good pals with Tony, and he phones Tony regular, and the guy's just incredible. That's it's just unbelievable. Now, going back a wee bit, you mentioned it briefly there, but in 1983 you won the European Cup Winners' Cup and the European Super Cup, right? Defeating the mighty Real Madrid and Hamburg respectively. And I mean, John, that must have been a huge high for a wee boy for Greenock.
Wow.
What was that like?
Well, I think the whole of Greenock watched it. The cup final, They must have, because everybody says, "I've seen that game on the TV."
I think there was more than Greenock watched it.
Aye.
It was incredible.
But it was just our time, I think, and to achieve that and to go and do what the boss said a couple of years before it. We were a 2-trophy team or 3, and we got there, and we lost out in a Scottish Cup tie in the semi-finals, a couple of them, but we come back strong, and we should have had more league wins, to be honest with you. We won the league 3 times, but I think we could have won more because we just missed the league. Dundee United won it in 83.
Yeah.
And to get Hamburg, who at one stage, Jed, it must have been, we were the best team in Europe. Easily. Aye, we were the best team in Europe because we got a medal, a big giant medal of that size. And that was for a European. It was Adidas football, but it was sponsored by a French magazine. And they'd done stats on all the European teams, and we were top of the league for that season. Celtic were 8th, Dundee United were 14th. 3 Scottish teams.
Wow.
In that scenario, in Europe. And we got awarded a first place in that, and a third place the following year. We were strong then, Scottish teams, really in Europe all the time. And but at one stage, if Hamburg beat the South Americans, and then we beat Hamburg in the Super Cup. So at one stage, we might have been the best team in the world.
Aye. And
that kind of the way you look at it, you know. And I never even thought of that until a couple of, somebody told us about it, and I says, well, I never even thought of that. But aye, at that stage we might have been.
Aberdeen were an incredible team, and you had a strong Dundee United, as you said then as well. It was
strong league,
great time for Scottish football. Now, I believe you then joined your hometown team of Morton as a player coach with the famous Alan McGraw, where you served for 10 years. Was it the lure of going back home, John?
It was in '86 the boss went, and then within about 5 or 6 months I think a few of the boys had went as well, and it was getting to that stage it was going to happen anyway. And I got a couple of noises from Forfar and Brecon. My 3 boys are Aberdonians, born and bred, and we loved Aberdeen, me and my wife Katie, and we were settled. But football does that to you. It upsets you and goes, so you've got to go and do it. So I got an offer for Forfar and Brecon to be the player coach or player manager with both of them. And I thought about it and I says, right, I'll keep the boys up here in school and, no problems. And I says, no, I've always wanted to be a Morton player. I never get scouted. So I goes down and I sees Alan McGraw. He's the total opposite of a Govan boys, what the boss is. The two of them are Govan, honestly. And he's it's black and white. But he's got an anger as well, Alan McGraw. Even though his knees are all knackered. He was brilliant for me. Brilliant. But the boss was brilliant at the time because I needed advice and I phoned him. I always phoned him anyway. And he says, don't hesitate. He says, just give us a phone if you need it. And I says, look, I've got this opportunity. He says, Alan McGraw is they're going for a league. He says, get down there, get your coaching badges. Alan will encourage you. You get him. This is him. A feather, more or less. And he turns around and says, get your coaching badges as well. He says, you'll get plenty of coaching and you'll go up to the Premier League with Alan. And that happened. So I goes down there and everything was good. The money was good as well. Really, really pleased about it. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But we was down there and I'm playing for Morton. And it was the first game. And I says, look, where are you playing, my boss? He says, playing centre mid. But I didn't know Jackie McNamara was playing centre mid. Now, us two couldn't run 5 yards, me and Jackie, but good players. Jackie was brilliant. He was assistant manager at the time. And I was never a box-to-box player. No. And the fans gave me pelters because they didn't like me, the Aberdeen player. They thought that's a sign for Morton. But at that time, everybody else is signed for Morton. I never got an opportunity. But eventually I get settled into my coaching. And the boss was bang on with everything and it worked out. It was great. And we got all the young boys coming through, the ground staff boys, McInnes and all that. And Alan Mahood, Craig Brown, all them boys that played Mark McGraw. I had them the YTS scheme and didn't have a lot of money. But what we had was a lot of fun. Training, they'd done well. Alan had the first team flying, got promotion. And I got noticed for my coaching, right, at Morton. And it was Jim McLeod that phoned me one day. I told the boss, I told Alan. He says, hello, John. He says, I says, who's this? It's Jim McLeod. What's you on at Morton? I told him £400 a week. Phone goes down. Phone goes down. He just drops the phone. Conversation's ended.
That was you?
Oh, that was it.
Was that it?
Aye, that was it. That price was enough.
Is that right? He just put the phone down, that was you done.
He wanted people on 10-year contracts at £5 a week or something.
He just put the phone down.
Oh, phenomenal.
That was it.
But he's such a nice person, honestly.
Aye.
See, take him away from football and he's all right. I remember him and Fergie, 1:45, saying, the two of them picked the team at 1:45. The home dressing room's there. Their office, the boss's office is there, and the away dressing room at Pittodrie's there. After they picked the team, they didn't get a game of snooker. Then they come out and battered each other in the dugout. Great mentality between the two of them.
Oh, listen, winners.
And Walter Smith was fantastic. I remember playing in the reserves with Walter. He used to come in. That's what he used to always do. Senior players and coaches, they always used to put them in to keep the young boys right, and that's the way the two of them worked. Aberdeen and Dundee United, and the rest of the Scottish teams, And I pinged a ball right outside right or something, and he turned around and says, "What a ball that is, wee man." That's what he says to me. He flatted me in the back, Walter. He couldn't stop coaching. What a man. And I became close friends with him. I ended up getting my badges, and my badges now, I now coach people one-on-ones, and I love it. I love coaching. Brilliant. And I've now got a position at the Port Juniors under 20s, along with Craig McCormack, Craig McCormack and Stuart Laird.
Fantastic.
Three boys there. But I love it, and I'm an ambassador with juniors as well. Through the committee's great.
And that says a lot about you, John.
Aye.
Look at the career we've just spoke about there.
Yeah.
Honestly, humble man. But my goodness gracious me, I grew up watching the great Aberdeen players and team, and you're sitting here and you're telling your story, and it's great that you're giving back. So what a story. So finally, John, you've written. Thankfully, you've written. This has to be told. You've written a book. If you hadn't written a book, you'd need to write one after this show. That's for sure. You've written a book, and it's called McMaster and Commander: The Business of Winning. My goodness, you know how to win.
The power. The three colleagues, David Christie and McNeill Morton and Robin McCausland, which I knew the boys before. And Robin and Neil are local boys. David's come from Glasgow, Aberdeen. He's a smashing person as well. They're all business partners, but it's now folded because it reached this level, and that was it. So Neil and Robin used to get us in Cafe Balf in the Greenock every Tuesday for about 6 weeks and ask me questions about Fergie, questions about Willie Miller, questions about Big Alec, questions about a reserve, all that stuff, what's his strengths, what's his weak, and they would put it in. And then David eventually come into it and telling them stories, and that ended up we were doing leadership talks on Sir Alex Ferguson after about a year. Because David worked with Maersk in Aberdeen, and we were doing that way before COVID came in, and that kind of knocked it in the head. And it was great to get stories out about the boss. Yeah. And one of the best stories that I can actually say about this man, I know he's a special person, he's a bit of a genius, but he knows where he came from. And I think he puts that on to other people. And where you come from is what they say. You don't forget where your arse came from. That's what they say in Greenock. So you can do what you want with that, Curtis.
Keep it in, Curtis.
You can do what you want with that. But that's what they said on the road to me anyway.
It's true.
And I says, well, you don't get Billy big times.
No,
right?
Never.
That's a polite one, Curtis.
No.
So when that happens, in a book, because I was doing seeing Sir Alex before it, and Big Neil ran a semiconductor for 35 years. This big guy's a powerful big guy. And he's driving, I'm driving all the way down to Manchester. And I call him Sir Alex. That's why he fell apart. So when he sees Sir Alex, I'm giving him a hug and everything, and he's fine. Goes up to his office, takes him in. Neil, you want a cup of tea? Neil Martin tells everybody that today. He said, you had a cup of tea off Sir Alex Ferguson? No, I have. He says, and he was just going like, I have a cup of tea. But we were there for 3 hours.
Nice.
And he said to me, having a conversation about something, or the boss was telling him about something. And automatically the boss says, you doing a book spammer? He says, and I says, no. But even before I get no out, right, he turns around and says, just talk about Real Madrid all the time. Didn't even give me the opportunity. I said no. And that was
there you go.
You know, it just tells you.
And your story's out there. How can people get a copy, John? Because it's a must read.
Oh, well, it's on the Amazon and it's £2. And it's in there. It's on the wee books, the ones you can read online.
Definitely. We'll get that up on screen. And just finally, what advice, now MD watching this show today is going to be absolutely gripped to your story. We Greenock to Aberdeen, to beating Real Madrid, to beating Hamburg, to come back to your hometown team as Morton. What an incredible journey. What advice would you give any young player watching this today, boy or girl?
Just believe in yourself. And get someone who believes in you. And if you can improve yourself at any stage at all, and you get into a position that you're improving people in any management or anywhere at all, this is what I get added on to me from everybody I've played with and coaches that I've worked with, and the ones that's actually advised me, it gave me the advice. You can always improve people, but you can also improve yourself with listening. And what the boss gave to us, gave to so many people. His mindset of what was happening. But also, the best way I can put that over is without him and Archie Knox. I wish I'd have got Archie Knox when I was 17. I got Archie when I was 26. What a coach he was. But the boss, everybody's got a family tree. Everywhere in the world there's a family tree. But in his sporting life, Sir Alex Ferguson must have the biggest family tree ever, with the amount of people he's gave a life to, as far as players, managers, coaches, scouts, individuals that work in the clubs. No. Something, you know, what a special person he is. He's never changed then. Everything's simple.
Indeed.
He still always say to me, what the boys, says, get the ball forward quick. Get it in their half. They fancy.
No rocket science, is it?
Aye.
No rocket science. And as I say, I'm very good friends with Tony, as we spoke about at the top of the show, and he phones Tony regular. And he made Tony his youngest ever captain. Tony was only 17, 18 at the time. Incredible.
Aye, well, he
started his
when
life.
he come up at first, he nearly lost us all. Because he kept on talking about Tony.
Did he?
Kept on talking about Tony and Frank McGarvey and everybody else in the team. I mean, we've just hammered them, and they've done well to get a throw-in against us the week before. He's came for there, and he's talking about that, and we're all getting... Well, we thought it was just winding us up to start with, but he kept doing it every training session. And then I think Stuart Kennedy and Willie Miller, he turned around and says, wow. He says, you're going to lose the club. You're going to lose them, boss. He says, they're talking. He says, I thought it's just, no, we carry on. I'm just mentioning it. And you know, somebody said to me, thanks for that.
There you go.
So he took it on board.
John McMaster, European Cup winners, Cup winner, European Super Cup winner, multiple Premier League winner, Scottish Cup winner. Unbelievable.
10 at sixes.
10 at sixes.
Two 10 at sixes.
2 10 at 6.
One driver a cup. Tell Fitzpatrick that.
John, absolutely incredible. Thank you for coming on.
A pleasure.
Chit Chat with Jed.
A pleasure, Curtis.
That is our show for Chit Chat with Jed and Co. The show where everyone has their say from Studio 23. Can we ask you please subscribe free to our YouTube channel, comment and give us a like. Today's show is sponsored by St Mirren legend Tony Fitzpatrick, Legacy Comps Prize Bonanza. Give them a visit at legacycomps.com. Thank you for watching.